At the conclusion of last night's game between the Ottawa Senators and the Winnipeg Jets, which was the Senators' final home game of the season, we saw Erik Karlsson take the game puck and tuck it in his equipment so he could keep it. There's been a lot of speculation and questions that maybe this was his last game at home in a Sens uniform. We'll discuss that situation coming up next. Welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. If you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. We're review and discuss all 31 NHL teams. So if you're a huge hockey fan, consider subscribing and clicking the bell so you don't miss anything. During last night's broadcast of the Ottawa Senators and Winnipeg Jets game, there was a lot of speculation from the announcers and the media that maybe could this be Erik Karlsson's final home game as a member of the Senators. They really played up the fact that there's a possibility that is real that he could be traded this summer. Obviously, Erik Karlsson is under contract with the Senators for one more season, and the team general manager Pierre Dorion has made it known that on July 1st, as soon as he's eligible and able to, he plans on offering an extension to keep Erik Karlsson as a Senator for life. But obviously, as we know, leading up to this year's NHL Trade Deadline, there was a lot of reports and a lot of speculation that the Ottawa Senators were seriously considering trading Erik Karlsson, who's definitely their franchise player and one of the most dynamic players that this franchise has ever seen. Now, obviously, regardless of how this all came about, we all know that the team is having a bad year. When teams are struggling the way they have this season, you know that other teams are going to come calling and trying to make a deal and pry away good players and trying to get bargain deals. That's just the nature of how business works. So regardless of the fact, did the Ottawa Senators actively shop Erik Karlsson? Were they just listening to offers? It doesn't really matter. I'm pretty well on the side that it all started with teams coming to them, making offers, inquiring. That's usually how things start. At the same time, though, as a business, you do need to listen to any offer on any player. Like Pierre Dorion said, even Wayne Gretzky's been traded. So the greatest player of all time has been traded, played for multiple teams. It can happen. Doesn't mean it should or it will. But at the end of the day, it's a business. If another team is talking to you about making a deal, you are obligated to at least listen. Now, obviously, those talks did get pretty serious, and it was being reported that they were really close to having that deal go down. It's been made known public by Bobby Ryan that he thought through word that he received through his agent that him and Karlsson were off to a Western Conference team. That team was believed to be the Vegas Golden Knights. So obviously things got really close, and it's from what Bobby said is that somebody got basically chickened out at the last minute and the deal didn't happen. Now I'm not sure which side or who that was or whatever. Those details we'll probably never know. But as the season ends and the off-season opens up this summer, if they are going to make a trade of a player of this magnitude, it's going to be a lot easier. There's going to be a lot more teams that are going to be involved. The cap space is going to be changing. There's a lot of factors that will come into play here that will open up the door to make a much broader deal. Obviously, at the end of the game, seeing Erik Karlsson pick up the puck kind of got everybody talking a little bit. There was all kinds of buzz on Senators Twitter. No matter what you turned on, the post-game reports, you looked at social media at all, everybody was all focused on the fact that Karlsson picked up the puck, and this must mean that he's leaving. He knows he's going to get traded or he's going to ask for a trade. Daniel Alfredsson did this at the end of a playoff game, which ended up being his last game as a Senator as well. So it is something that we've seen before, and the player did end up leaving. Now, I don't think he can take that puck knowing for certain that this was his last game. But I think he's a person who's smart, he knows what's going on, and he probably acknowledges, and regardless what he wants or feels right now, that it is a real possibility that he could get traded this summer. Because at the end of the day, he only has so much say and so much control over how that works and where he ends up playing. So regardless of what Karlsson wants, it takes two to tango here. He has to want to stay, and the Senators need to want to keep him and pay him appropriately to work out a long-term deal and keep him a Senator for life. If either one of those sides don't seem agreeable to those terms, then we very well likely will see a trade. Now, does Erik Karlsson want out of Ottawa? I have no reason to think that. He's never given any indication, at least publicly, to indicate that that's the case. It wouldn't be a complete surprise, though, if hearing all the trade speculations at the trade deadline, that maybe his feelings are hurt. Maybe he doesn't think the team wants to keep him. It's really hard to say how players react to this thing. This is definitely the first time in his career where he's really had a situation like this, where he had to hear any trade rumors or talks, or even consider leaving town. And for the most part, he seemed to be quite content and happy in Ottawa. Obviously, his wife is from Ottawa. They had the unfortunate situation with their new baby that just went down as well, which is obviously throwing a lot of emotion in the mix here and making this a very difficult season for Karlsson, both on and off the ice. So I'm sure he's filled with emotion, and I'm sure he's filled with uncertainty. And I do think that he took the puck just because maybe it could be the last game. So leave some comments down below. What are your thoughts on why he took the puck? Ottawa Senators need to tread very lightly here. Obviously, this is a franchise player, a type of player that doesn't come along very often. If they're going to trade him, they need to make sure they get this right. It's a very, very difficult trade for them to win and come out ahead. But I guess the silver lining here might be that if they do end up moving Karlsson, that maybe they'll be fortunate enough to win the draft lottery and draft Rasmus Dahlin. Obviously, with adding Dahlin into the mix, who's expected to be a generational type defenseman as well. You throw in Thomas Chabot and some of the other guys that they've got young guys on the back end, and their defense score doesn't look so bad. But there's no guarantees that Rasmus Dahlin is going to be as good or better than Erik Karlsson. I mean, just because he looks like that's going to be the case and he's projected to be, doesn't mean that's going to happen. There's all kinds of things at play that just, you can't predict 100%. I mean, we've seen Nicholas Lidstrom on record saying that he feels that Dahlin was better than he was at his age. And Dahlin is putting up some better statistics at his age than Lidstrom or Karlsson did, where he's playing in Sweden. So realistically, there's a pretty good likelihood that he's going to have the same type of impact on a team that a Karlsson or a Lidstrom would. But it's just, you can't guarantee that. You have Karlsson in the mix right now. You know what you're getting. And it's really unfortunate if it comes down to this. Things are a bit of a mess in Ottawa. And to be honest, there's really nobody else to blame but ownership. There's a lot of upset fans, obviously, with the ownership. In Ottawa, Eugene Melnyk is a very unpopular man. Obviously, there's billboards around the city with the whole big Melnyk out hashtag that's spreading around. I'm not really sure how to feel about that. At the same time, I mean, I understand where the sentiment comes from, and I don't entirely disagree with it. But at the same time, completely boycotting the team and not going to the games, not buying tickets, not offering them any support, it's not really the best way either. I understand they don't want to support Melnyk. But at the same time, you got to support the players and the team. And if that's how you feel and you're going to be a fan and you want to support the players, it kind of goes hand in hand. Now, I guess one thing that could happen this summer that would probably be the greatest thing to ever happen to the franchise, we find out news that Melnyk is going to sell the team. We've seen speculation that there are other groups in Ottawa who would be ready, able, and willing to buy the team should he decide he wanted to do that. A lot of people would love to see Daniel Alfredsson be part of that group. They come in on his white horse and save the day, buy the Senators, sign Erik Karlsson to a long-term deal, and everything will be all hunky-dory again. But, I'm sorry, that's a bit of a pipe dream. It's probably not going to happen. Trust me, I'd love to see it as much as anybody, but we have to be real here, and this is not likely in the cards. So at the end of the day, I think it is a real possibility that Erik Karlsson has played his final game in a Senators jersey on home ice. It's unclear right now if he's going to join the team for the final 3 road games of the season. Obviously, with everything going on with him personally, there is debate that he may not join the team for the 3-game road trip to close out the season. So has Erik Karlsson played his final game as a member of the Ottawa Senators? Leave some comments down below. Give me your thoughts. And if he has played his final game, where do you see him going in the offseason? Obviously, he's under contract, so it'd have to be via trade. So if they're going to make a deal, where is he going to go and where is the best fit for Erik Karlsson if it's not in Ottawa? My take on it is I think right now we're about a 50-50 split. I think there's a 50% chance he comes back and there's a 50% chance he gets traded. At the end of the day here, I think both Karlsson and the Senators should take their time with this. This is a franchise-altering move. Obviously, they're going to see how the draft lottery plays out and where they end up picking. They do have a big decision to make on whether or not they keep their pick or they give it to Colorado to satisfy the terms of the Matt Duchene trade. Obviously, if they're picking in the top 5 or 6 picks, I think it makes sense to keep it. But at the same time, they have to go through that lottery process to see for sure where they're picking before they make that decision. But when it comes to Karlsson, he's under contract next year. It's going to be very, very difficult to win a trade. And you know, maybe they can take the time to kind of play things out here, show Karlsson that they can make rebuild this team quickly, and maybe they can work things out. I don't know, but I don't think there's any real rush for Karlsson to say he wants out, for Ottawa to say they want to move him on. I just think that they can take their time here and try to get this right, because it's just that huge of a decision and will have impact on this franchise for years to come, either for the good or for the bad, depending on the outcome. So as I said, leave some comments down below. Let me know what you think about Erik Karlsson. Has he played his final game at the Canadian Tire Center in a Senators jersey? And if so, where do you think he'll end up playing next season? Where do you see him being traded to? If you're new to the channel, I hope you consider subscribing. We cover all 31 NHL teams. There's plenty of content here for all fan bases to enjoy. If you haven't done so already, consider following us on Twitter. You're going to find our Twitter handle on the screen right here. We're very active on Twitter, so check out that account. We're also on Facebook and Instagram, and all those social media links are down below in the description. As always, thank you very much for watching, everybody. We'll catch you next time.